Emotions are so big. I've worked with clients that they're like, oh, I don't really feel the emotion. And I think a lot of us, we just weren't taught to understand emotions as a language. It's either good or bad, positive or negative. And I'm really learning that emotions is just a guidance system. It's neither good nor bad. It's just a communication system, a guidance system showing us where we are at. And emotions are meant for us to move through them. We're not meant to hold on to them. And what happens with emotions is when a lot of the times when we experience an emotion we don't want to feel, we say not right now and we shut it down. And what that does is it brings other emotions along with it.
Yeah! What's up, everybody? Your life alchemist, your dragon. Welcome to Alchemized Life. I'm your host, Justin David Carl. This is a show where I seek out and share expertise, wisdom, and thought leadership in all domains with the mission of empowering and inspiring you to proactively design and truly live a life worth living. We're all in this together, and when we do the work together, we go so much farther, so much faster, and have so much more fun. Without further ado, let's dig into this episode and alchemize life. Carly Lyn Wise Phoenix, welcome to the show. So for the audience, to give a little introduction, by now you probably know who the Phoenix is, but if you don't, and this is your first time listening in to Alchemize Life, the Phoenix is my wife, among many other things, including she's a self-esteem, empowerment, and manifestation coach, as well as an EFT practitioner. If you heard that noise just now, that was our Liger, aka our cat, Ella. She decided she did not want to record with us.
She got shy.
Yeah. But we're here today because ever since I launched this podcast, I've been wanting to have my wife on the show because she has played such an instrumental part in the creation of this show, as well as the manifestation of the man that I've always wanted to be in this world. And to kind of kick things off and take it back to the beginning, the origin story, Carly, can you recount how you first encountered me?
It's so weird to look across the table from you and look deeply into your eyes as you share and talk. My first encounter of the dragon was in his element of the Hollywood nightclubs. I think I first noticed you at one sunset, bringing it back, people. If you lived in Hollywood, played in Hollywood, one sunset was the bomb. I'm trying to think of the days, like Monday or Wednesday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Back when we partied on pretty much every day of the week.
Every day.
Especially Monday.
Beginning of the week was always the best. And I was with one of my best friends, and I see this guy over by the DJ booth, and he's screaming and looking at me, and it's just like, ah! And his like hands are up, and I was like, oh shit, that guy's on drugs. We need to step away, tell my friend, like, let's like take a few steps back, because he's just like dancing, head pounding, and screaming in the corner of the DJ booth. And then the second time, I feel like I must have recognized you more too, though. But the first time we actually talked was at another club, Green Door. And I just showed up to meet my friends. And I walk in by myself, and Dragon comes like dashing by, hitting me in the shoulder. And I turn around to be like, what the fuck, man? And he comes bouncing back, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm leaving right now, but you want these drink tickets? And I was like, okay, fine. And so I took the drink tickets, and I think I said, or one of us, I was like, I don't know you, but I know you. And you said, I know what you're saying, but I'm leaving. Take down my phone number. And then you messaged me and you were like, I've been watching you for months. And I was like, what? Oh my God. In the bathroom, freaking out.
So I guess I'll jump in and share with the audience how I first noticed the Phoenix. So the Phoenix was a avid club goer, and
I didn't even work in it. Justin at least worked in it. I didn't even work in it.
Yes, I worked. What was the date? Like around what year was this? Do you remember?
I know when we started talking, I was either just turned 21. So I was probably in between 20 and 21. And that was 2008. Mm-hmm. So 2007, 2008.
Yeah. Okay. So I was a nightclub manager at that time. And the first time that I noticed the Phoenix was actually after the club had shut down, and she was still in the club with some of the people that threw the party, but the club was closed. There was no like music on anymore. The lights were up, and I'm like closing out the table waitresses and just, doing the end of night shutdown of the business. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this girl like totally trip down the stairs and like fall onto her hands and knees and slide across the floor, and literally her little like mini skirt like goes up and I see her thong. And that was like my first impression of what would become my future wife.
And what did you think when you saw that?
And I was super attracted to her, but I was like, this girl's crazy, just like me. But I was in my nightclub manager mode, which like is very serious, much different than when I'm like screaming and fist pumping and out partying myself. So that was kind of when I first noticed you. So when I made that like comment to you at Green Door, I had kind of just been watching you since that incident of you falling down the stairs and sliding across the floor. And so when I did bump into you, it was actually, as far as I remember, like accident. I was probably just being like the Taurus bull, like dragon, just like charging through the club and ran into you. But then I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity for me to introduce myself and try to get her number.
I remember one of the people that I was staying after with at that night, like they messaged me later and being like, why is my manager asking me about you? And that was you. But I had no idea.
Yeah. So one of the comments that I always like to make about working in Hollywood nightlife is the fact that it's not the best place to bring out your best self, but there are always diamonds in the rough. And I feel like the Phoenix was my diamond in the rough. And we won't go into the whole story of how we finally actually got together, or we might another time. But I just want to kind of set the scene for everyone, because both Carly and I have come a long, long way. So what I would like to do is transition into how you became an EFT practitioner and a coach. So can you share with us like how that happened?
It started with your dad, and he came and visited us for, what was it? Something? He was visiting us, and I remember him bringing up tapping and being like, yeah, there's this thing that really works, and you just tap, and I've seen it really help people. And it stuck in the back of my head, but I didn't think too much of it. And then I was listening to a podcast, Natalia Benson, and she was, I think, interviewing Gala Darling. And I was listening to something else, and tapping came up, and it just kept showing up in my space probably a few years later after your dad had planted the seed. And so I went on YouTube. I was like, what is this thing called tapping? Did a few videos, and it was so crazy seeing the shift in my own energy, perspective, how things were starting to show up in my life, and so quickly how it was able to self-soothe myself and my emotions, that I've been doing personal development since I was 21. And this was the first tool that I was like, oh my God, I need to know what this is, because it was so instant, the feeling of relief. And I loved that I could do it on myself. It made me feel like I had more empowerment, because when I started my spiritual journey, I was very quick to give my power and the possibility of healing to other people. And so this was the first tool that it was like, oh, I can do this on myself, and I can help myself heal, and I can feel it. And so I looked in our library in our home, like in our house, and I was just looking around, and I found the EFT manual and the tapping solution, which of course we would just happen to have that. And I started reading it. And then I started playing around with practicing on friends and just seeing if they would be open to it. And I knew that I wanted to know more about it and just become really great at it. And it kind of became this tool that I thought, okay, this is my tool. Like, this is finally the tool that I've been waiting for in doing personal development that really feels home to me. And so that's when I started researching certification programs.
So, in your own words, could you share with us how you explain what EFT tapping is?
EFT tapping, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it's a self-soothing technique. So we're using the same meridian system that acupuncturists use. And instead of needles, you're tapping on these points on your body as you speak out emotional stressors. And it helps to release that emotion through your body and create that movement like you would acupuncture. But what I really like about it is it brings this very like conscious element to it. You know what you're tapping about versus going in and working on the symptom. Not to say acupuncture isn't amazing. I just like that there is this modality that can create release, but you're also consciously aware of what you're releasing.
How would you say that EFT tapping is different from therapy or kind of other types of healing and personal development work?
Therapy is really wonderful. All tools can be really wonderful. I think there's so many studies now that shows how we store emotions in our body, and our body holds on to trauma, that it's really important to add a somatic element to the mind and uncovering that you're doing with therapists. So it's just adding on that somatic experience and healing as well. So helping it to move through the body.
Mm. Yeah, in my own work with my own EFT practitioner, as well as you, I've definitely felt like I actually was able to tap into the emotions and experience and feel them and actually emote them. Whereas in the past, when I've done therapy, like I'm able to talk about them, but it's not as visceral of an experience. It's more like kind of like pointing at something like, hey, that over there, like that was not a good situation for me. And, it caused some less positive feelings. Whereas EFT tapping, it's like, no, let's like dive right into the feeling and, into the almost like ocean of that feeling. And like, let's go swim in that ocean of that feeling and really get present to it and give it an opportunity to be fully expressed.
Emotions are so big. I've worked with clients that they're like, oh, I don't really feel the emotion. And I think a lot of us, we just weren't taught to understand emotions as a language. It's either good or bad, positive or negative. And I'm really learning that emotions is just a guidance system. It's neither good nor bad. It's just a communication system, a guidance system, showing us where we are at and emotions are meant for us to move through them. We're not meant to hold on to them. And what happens with emotions is when a lot of the times when we experience an emotion we don't want to feel, we say not right now and we shut it down. And what that does is it brings other emotions along with it. And so I took an amazing emotions course. We'll put it in the show notes. But it was explained that you then create this emotional vortex because you've shut down the first emotion. Now you've brought others' emotions along with it. And then it creates this cycle. So when I'm working with clients, one emotion may come up and then all of a sudden it shifts to another emotion. First, I'm feeling frustrated. Then it moves to anger. Then it moves to sadness. Then it moves back to anger and maybe shame, guilt. It's like there's a lot of times more than one emotion present. And I think that's what can be really hard to understand is because we're feeling multiple things at one time. So it's hard to name it. And that's what's really important too, is being able to name the emotion so that we can bring attention to it. And then others can come up and start naming those and moving through them.
Yeah, some reflections on that from somebody who has spent a lifetime attempting to not feel any non-positive emotions. And I believe when you're younger, you can kind of get away with it because your body is younger and more resilient. But then as you continue to age and you store more and more non-positive emotions in your body, you start to reach a capacity where those stored traumatic emotions start to manifest in physical dis-ease, whether that's, a skin condition or a sickness of some sort, or, just breakdowns in your immune system. And it also blocks you, at least in my experience, from potentially doing some of the things that you really want to do in your life. And you can't figure out why you can't just get out of your own way and do it. So in my kind of journey to creating this podcast, I asked myself at the beginning of 2022, what am I going to do different so that I'm not in the same place next year? And it's been another 10 years that I've been dreaming about doing a podcast. And you suggested that I start working with an EFT coach, which was Leo, who's been on the show. And that has been one of the most kind of transformational, profound experiences for me, because I was able to go into these deep-rooted traumatic emotions that I had accumulated, many of them that I accumulated during childhood, during the divorce or separation of my parents. And I wasn't aware of how much impact that they were having on my life. So I'm just kind of curious, what are the types of things that you work on with your clients?
Actually, just you bringing that up makes me think of one technique that I've done when we're putting a visual to what the feeling is or the memory. Either maybe it's so hard to feel it, so kind of detaching from the visual, but okay, let's put a shape, color, size to it. Or when you think about this emotion, where is it being stored in your body? And then we go through rounds, and after every round I check in, okay, has anything changed? And times that I've done that with clients, they are just like, oh my God, I didn't realize, the visual is so painful. Even just what they're imagining, it's not an actual memory, but just the visual of the emotion in their body and what that looks like is so strong. And it can bring up just so much. So to be able to move through in that way can be really nice, but also shows, again, the intensity, what an emotion can be without even necessarily attaching it to something, just being able to feel it in their body.
Yeah, just some examples of how you work with your clients.
Yeah. And I work with limiting beliefs. So just as much as emotions being stored, I work with limiting beliefs, especially around self-esteem and empowerment, those core beliefs that are saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving. You were talking about feeling stuck in, something you want to do, but you just can't find yourself to do it. That resistance, usually there's like a deep limiting belief there. And when we work on that, it's such a unraveling of first why they feel that they can't do that, what they think is going to happen to them, what they're imagining is going to happen, whether it be failure really failure, that it's not going to work. But then going a little bit deeper and asking, okay, well, where did this come from? Like, when did you decide that you weren't good enough? And we can go into that deeper. I just did that recently with a client. We went in and worked with her younger self. And she was so touched by going back and connecting with her younger self, tapping with her younger self. And really, so much of our younger selves just really want our own support, like our current self to show up for them and rebuild that connection together.
Yeah, I did a lot of that work with Leo in kind of, trying to remove the limiting beliefs that were holding me back from launching this podcast. And ultimately also my coaching program, which was another 5+ year dream that I, tried and failed to get off the ground. And that was like super emotional and traumatic for me. Like a really big failure in my journey of life. And one of the really amazing things to me about working with an EFT practitioner and connecting with your inner child is kind of rebuilding or restarting a relationship, like a present relationship with that inner child. And that relationship in my own life has come out many times, like when I'm doing really fun things like rollerblading or just being a kid. But I think there is a much deeper relationship, a much more solid connection that one can create with their inner child. So it's more of like a partnership where you're, reconnecting, kind of setting some foundational support so that you can continue to kind of nourish, protect, and love your inner child. Because I think a lot of us, when things get challenging in life, our inner child gets really scared. And men, at least in my own case, we tend to fight fear with anger. And anger is, one of the non-positive emotions. And some men emote that anger in very destructive ways, and others kind of store the anger within themselves. And then that causes all sorts of problems. And in my own journey, just reconnecting with kind of my inner child and starting up that, more of a regular kind of connection dialogue with my inner child has just really been profound in just getting like back into like sync with my best life. 'Cause it's so easy for me to just try to like, I don't know, like white knuckle it through like challenging times, or just, just be like, I'm just going to like force myself to get through this, when there's a lot of kind of tension that can be released if we just take a moment to pause, connect with our inner child and see what he or she needs, and then go from there.
Well, first I'll also say anger is not bad.
I don't think I said bad. I said non-positive.
It's not non-positive, because you can use anger as passion.
It's true.
And it can be healthy. Again, this is where I want to break the stigma of like something's good or bad. It's just a guidance system.
I
It's
love that.
literally telling you something's off right here. I'm feeling angry. And so it's getting curious of like, well, what's making me angry right now? Why is it making me angry? What maybe boundary got crossed, and how can I move through it? That's the thing about emotions. It's meant to be experienced. It's meant to tell us something and then to move through it. So I'm really always telling people that, like, let's break this stigma that it's good or bad. And then the other thing is our younger selves are so incredibly wise. And it makes me think of this story. I don't remember where. I think I read it on Instagram or something about hearing, it was like this young boy and they just had another child. And the parents heard the young boy go into the room of the new baby. And the young boy was asking the baby, like, help me remember. Like, I'm forgetting. Like, help me to remember. Oh my God, it makes me emotional. Because as kids, like, they do remember, like, that spiritual side and connection that, like, as we grow, we've just been conditioned, or, you know, our external, our parents, or the environment around us taught us to forget. And so here's this little kid who's like, oh my God, I'm starting to forget. Like, let me go to my baby brother who just came from that world and have him help me to remember. And so we forget. And then it makes me think of a story of my nephew. Around Christmas one time, we were doing these like jokes, and we were reading them out loud, and all the adults are sitting there stumped on this joke. And Finn was like, it's a blah, blah. It had something to do with trains, which he's obsessed with trains and cars. But we were all just like, and he was right. And it was just this moment of a kid checking all the adults. And so children have just so much wisdom because they're still connected to that world too. And especially when it comes to play and how to live life. And so coming back to that is just so important, and not thinking that our younger selves within us didn't know. It's those, you know, when we go back and do that inner child work, a lot of them are just hurt because they've been told so many times that they were wrong, that they were stupid, that they don't know what they're talking about, that they should be doing things a certain way. And so it's just that like conditioning. We get to go back in and pull on the wisdom of that inner kid.
Yeah. Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. Today's show is brought to you by Veg Nutrition, Live Better. So I'm actually a Veg elite athlete, and before I joined the team, I spent months doing my due diligence to make sure that the company was vision, mission, and value aligned with me, my values, my mission, my vision, and my lifestyle. I got to know the owners super well. I even got to know the person who formulates all the products, and they passed with flying colors. So I couldn't be more excited to represent a company that I feel so aligned with. And I want to tell you about two of my favorite products. The first is the Veg Pre-Workout. So when I first went vegan, or mostly vegan, the last thing for me to go fully vegan was finding a vegan pre-workout that gave me the focus, the energy, and the power that I was looking for. And I can tell you, this is the best pre-workout that I've ever had. It gives me incredible focus and energy. And what's probably the best is it leaves me with no crash after I take it, which is great. And the flavors are so freaking good. There's literally peach mango and a Patriot Pop that tastes like, you know, the firecracker popsicles, cherry lemon lime flavor. They're literally so good that I can dry scoop them. And they just released a watermelon flavor for just in time for summer, and it's incredible. So that's the first product. The second product is arguably also my favorite, and that's the plant protein. Comes in 3 incredible flavors: chocolate peanut butter, vanilla ice cream, and cold brew coffee. Yep, you heard me. Cold brew coffee flavor. It tastes incredible, all 3 flavors. 25 grams of protein, fully organic, incredible ingredients, heavy metal tested, and it is my go-to post workout. Make sure that I'm recovering and refueling and giving my muscles the protein that they need to rebuild for that next workout. So go to vegnutrition.com/dragon and try their full line of supplements, and you'll get 15% off. Or you can just use Dragon at checkout and you'll get 15% off. So that's vegnutrition.com/dragon to get 15% off. Veg Nutrition, live better. And then when you think about like a young child and them playing, like you can literally almost like just see like how in spirit they are and how connected to spirit they are. And they're so happy and they're so alive.
And they move through their emotions. Like you can see a kid move through their emotions pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like one emotion to the next. And that's that movement of like, it's meant to be experienced and move on. But then the older they get, the more they hold on to it.
Yep.
Because
we're taught by society.
Don't feel it.
Family.
Shut it down.
Yep. Yeah. Anger is bad. Sadness is bad. Yeah, there's just a lot of conditioning. And I love how you totally kind of caught and checked me. Because in my own experience, as somebody who grew up with a father who really focused on just the positive feelings, there's a benefit to that. And kind of, people are very attracted to my energy because I'm very high energy. I'm very positive. But the downside of that is I have a huge challenge, like even accepting the other spectrum of emotions. And maybe that's the better way I can put it into words, is just the other side of the spectrum. So if, joy and happiness are one side, the other side of the spectrum might be like sadness and anger. And I'm still redefining kind of my own interpretation around it. And I think the fact that you call it a guidance system is really empowering, because then it allows us to do what you said is get curious. Like, what is this guidance emotion telling us? What is it communicating to us? And then how can we connect to that guidance to actually not only move through the emotion, but move through our life in an empowering way?
Yeah. There's an amazing book called The Book of Joy by the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And they talk about the 7 pillars of joy. And one of the first pillars is perspective. And what comes up is that, and it talks a lot about emotions, but that with joy, it's like 2 sides of the same coin. Like you have to experience the other stuff too, to experience joy. Like you have to experience those other emotions that might feel challenging to know what true joy is, because it's that polarity as well. So just seeing it as a guidance system and a communication system. Okay, what is my emotions communicating to me in this moment can help you change your perspective in terms of whatever is happening, as this is bad or good. It's just what's happening right now. Where am I not aligned with my own values or my truth? And maybe it's even challenging values and truth, and it's time to look at them again.
Yeah. And by challenging like values, meaning that like it may be time to update one's values.
Yeah.
I love that. So in regards to giving the audience some practical things that they could try on, how would you recommend someone connect to their inner child? If someone's listening to this show and they're like, okay, that's awesome, sounds interesting, but I haven't actually connected with my inner child in like 10, 20 years, what would you suggest?
That's a really good question. I guess a few things come up for me. One is just thinking when you were a child, what made you happy, and start incorporating that into your life more. I loved to paint when I was younger. I loved crystals. I loved I could fly. I loved wearing capes. And I do all that now. And then it made me think of the journal that I have. So I created a journal / it could be seen as a workbook really too, that all of my clients get so that they can do the work at home. But anyone could get the journal on my website, and it's called Reflect, Vibrate, and Receive. And it's really to help tune into your emotions, what's happening, how to support yourself in self-soothing as well as manifestation. But it makes me think of, when you asked that, it made like vibration came up. And a lot of times when I'm working with clients and, okay, what do you want? Let's practice asking for what you want. That's the first rule of manifestation. You have to ask. And we go through our lives forgetting to ask for things. We either don't think that we can, or it's just out of habit. And so what I say is, after every session, okay, what are you asking for today? And then imagine, so at home you can practice, what are you asking for today? What do you want? And then imagine that you received it, that it came true and you have it. It happened. What are the emotions that you're feeling right now? Excited, happy, proud, magical, whatever it could be. So what are you feeling, imagining that you've received it? And then to help them step into that vibration so they can attract the things that they want, I ask them, what activities can you do right now that makes you feel those feelings that you just wrote down in terms of what you're vibrating? And so I would say, like, whatever those activities are can be another way to tap into your inner child.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about self-esteem. I know that is a big thing that you work on with your clients, as well as one of your areas of passion and expertise. Why do you think self-esteem is so important?
It's so important because self-esteem is connected to what we think about ourselves at our core. So, and it goes so well with limiting beliefs, because when we have low self-esteem, when something happens that is an outcome that we weren't wanting, we immediately attack ourselves at our core of saying, you know, I'm not good enough. I'm not deserving. At my core as a human, I'm not good enough. Where having healthy self-esteem is being able to experience external events that maybe wasn't the outcome that we wanted, but instead of attacking who we are, we can see it with a different perspective of, okay, did I just not study enough? Did I not prepare myself enough? Was I tired? One of my questions in the journal is literally rating your sleep. And I can't tell you how many people who have used the journal is like, that is such a powerful question. And I didn't even realize how much my sleep plays a role in how the rest of my day is. And when you can like rate your sleep and say it's a 4, you can have so much more compassion for yourself when things kind of don't go the way you want it to, because you slept a 4. You didn't get rest. What was I saying?
We're just talking about self-esteem.
So with healthier self-esteem, you could recognize things and be like, oh, I just didn't get good sleep.
Yeah.
Like, but at my core, I'm not this like unworthy dum-dum.
Yeah. Hey there. Just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. Today's show is brought to you by Fit Rich Vegan. If you're ready to get in the best shape of your life, double your income, and 10x your savings and investments, then this is the coaching program for you. But wait a minute, Dragon. Isn't this your coaching program? Heck yeah, it is. I spent the last 8 years mastering my fitness and my finances, And I've built an incredible coaching program with an incredible team to help you get the body of your dreams and finally achieve that level of financial success that you've been seeking. So if you want to find out if you're a good fit for the program, go to fitrichvegan.com and book your free consultation today. Or you can just DM me on Instagram with the words fitrichvegan and we can chat about if it's going to be a good fit for you. I'm committed to empowering people to actually achieve their fitness and financial goals. I spent the last 20 years trying to figure this out on my own. And what I realized is the key to doing it is not doing it alone. You have to have coaches, you have to have mentors, and you have to be a part of masterminds. And that's exactly what Fit Rich Vegan has. It has coaches, mentors, and it is a mastermind. So again, if you're ready to book your free consultation today, go to fitrichvegan.com or drop me a DM on Instagram.
I think that's super powerful because anyone listening to this has had a terrible night of sleep, and life is just hard when you don't get enough sleep. And if you consciously recognize like, oh, I did not get good sleep last night, that means I'm going to have to be extra compassionate with myself because things are likely going to be a lot harder. And just by creating that openness or that mindset, I think it allows one to be a lot more kind of forgiving upfront with oneself. Whereas I know for me, if I don't get enough sleep, literally I feel like anxiety arises for me, depression, like mild forms of depression start to like creep in, and I literally just have to do everything I can to make the day easier for myself, you know, whether that's rescheduling some meetings or taking a nap or both. And knowing that after I get some sleep, I will feel a lot better and I'll be infinitely more effective. And I think what I really like about your journal is the fact that you're asking yourself how you slept, like 1 out of 10, 10 being like incredible sleep, like I feel rested and rejuvenated, you know, down to like a 1 where it was like I barely slept, I slept like crap, I don't feel good. And the reason I like that is because it's qualitative versus quantitative. So myself included and many other people wear like all these different types of trackers, right? And they may say our sleep was crap, or they may say our sleep was great, but like we don't actually like feel in line with whatever it's telling us. And I can't tell you how many times I've woken up and either my tracker says I got great sleep, but I don't feel great, or vice versa. Like my trackers say that I got not great sleep and I'm like, I feel really good. And so one of the things I've been working on myself is just kind of like using the trackers as just like one of many guidance systems, but ultimately that how I feel within is what's most important. And I think that your journal really encourages us to connect with ourself, like our body, our spirit, our energy, and really assess from there. And then we're able to move through the day much more powerfully.
Thank you. And yeah, in the today I asked for, where you get the opportunity to consciously ask for something when let's say you did sleep like a rating of a 3 or 4, you can actually, I always invite people like with this question, imagine that you're asking your best friend who would never say no to you. Like, what would you ask them for today? If you knew that you got a 3, like where could you use support and help during the day? And you can actually ask for that. That's where we start becoming like the co-creator and the manifester in our life versus just sitting back and like, okay, what's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen is whatever is aligned with the energy that you're feeling. But if you can, in that moment, shift your perspective into like, okay, I slept this, but I'm going to ask for support. from the universe or whoever you believe in, then it creates this new possibility and opportunity that you don't have to do it alone. I ask for support in having energy today. I ask for support in taking something off my plate so I can just have some time for myself. And when you start to see those things come up and happen, it's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
I asked for a sign that I'm not alone. I mean, you witnessed me do that when the bird flew into our home.
Yep.
So it's just practicing asking as well.
Yeah. Really good book for people if they want to learn how to ask even better is Asking It Is Given by Jerry and Esther Hicks. We'll put the link to the book in the show notes. But I really think most people are not asking for what they really want in life because they're afraid to ask for it. They're afraid if they ask for it, they won't get it, or they're suffering kind of from one of the most common human psychological ailments, which is like, I'm not good enough.
There's also and you don't think that this would happen, but there's actually a lot of fear around what if I actually receive it? That's come up with clients too. We've gotten to this point where the big things started showing up, and then there's so much resistance and just taking that step and receiving it, because what does that mean? Who do I have to become now to actually receive this? It's at my doorstep, and now it's really fucking scary to take it and say, oh yeah, I am. This is what I asked for. And I've been through that myself too.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about manifestation. So I know that's part of your coaching practice as well as part of your workbook. How do you think about manifestation? How do you manifest? Share with us your thoughts around that.
I think of manifestation as whatever is showing up in your life, you've manifested it, whether you believe it or not, because it's just this creative energy that's constantly happening. And so it is just what is in this reality. It's shown up in this reality. Thoughts, feelings have shown up into this world for you to experience. We just a lot of times aren't aware of what we're experiencing, what we're feeling. And so we think we didn't manifest it. But I'm going to say that you did. And so the work that I do is helping people to be conscious of that and become a creator with it so that you have a choice. We forget that we have choice, especially when we're not asking for things. And then we think we didn't ask for that. We believe that we don't have a choice, but that this happened to us. And so becoming more aware of our choice and being a conscious creator in our daily lives. And the first rule of manifestation is asking for what you want, which is what we're just talking about. And so practicing asking for what you want. And then the second one is vibrating what you want. And a lot of times, if you're not receiving what you want, you are most likely vibrating the lack of what you have. And that's why I ask that question of, okay, imagine you have what you want. What are you feeling, thinking that you've received that? Those are the vibrations. Those are the emotions that you want to focus on feeling on the daily so that you can be in alignment with that, what you're asking for. And then choosing activities that naturally get you into that feeling state.
Yeah. Hey there, just a few words about the incredible show sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll dig right back in. This show is brought to you by Feel Free from Botanic Tonics. This product is unlike anything I've ever had before. No joke. It's made with kava root and other ancient plants, and just half a shot gives me this incredible sense of focused flow and productivity. And I love to take just half a shot right before I work out. I take it with my pre-workout, and it takes my workouts to the next level. It is seriously unlike anything I've ever had. It's also an incredible productivity tool for any big work projects that you have, or long periods of time where you just need to be super focused in flow state and get a lot of shit done. So if you want to give this a shot, you can go to botanictonics.com and use code DRAGON at checkout to get 40% off your first order. No joke. 40% off with code DRAGON. That's feel free from botanictonics.com, code DRAGON. Feel free, feel good.
I'm just thinking through just my own kind of like health and well-being recently. The last month or so has been kind of challenging just because I feel I haven't felt like my well-being has been super high, and it's actually not been that great. And in this conversation, I'm trying to understand how I am creating that for myself, as well as like how do I move back into greater well-being. And one of the things that's really coming up for me right now is this racket that I identified through a workshop that I did a long time ago, which is this is too much. And this, over the last 8 months, I've launched a podcast, a coaching program, continued my work with my Stanford startup, Garten. We moved to a new city, and both of our families have been going through some challenging times. And I feel like that racket has come back up, like this is too much, which is causing me to be disconnected from my inner well-being. You want to do exercise? Sure.
Get some live examples. Okay, write down. Today I ask for.
Today I ask for.
What are you asking for?
Radiant well-being.
Radiant well-being. And then I like to put in because.
Because.
Why?
I deserve to feel fucking great.
And what would radiant well-being give to you?
It would give me the ability to be of great service to people.
So because I want to be of great service to people. Write it down. Understanding the because can be really key, because you're either seeing if it's for this external like thing or something that is really gonna light your heart up and be of service. So, today I'm asking for this because I want X like person to reach out to me or thing to happen. And you can't ask for some, like, how can I put this? You can't control another person in manifestation. I think sometimes we want that is to like control, like, oh, if I can manifest anything, I'm going to manifest this other person doing what I want them to do. And that is not how it goes. Like, you got to come back to yourself. Like, what's the meaning for you? Yeah. Not my happiness depends on this other thing per se. Okay, so imagine that you are feeling radiant well-being. What are you experiencing? What are you feeling with radiant well-being? That's like me
on my rollerblades, like with my friends, like my music, blasting and just like.
And that makes me feel what?
Magical as fuck.
Write it down. So I'm vibrating magical as fuck. Anything else? Rollerblading, you're with your friends, you're blasting your music, you're doing your batons.
Like,
yep.
Strong.
Feeling strong. What else? Anything else? Those are good.
I mean, wisdom comes to mind.
Okay. Wisdom, like of what?
Just like when I am feeling magical as fuck and feeling strong, I feel that hand in hand with those feelings comes wisdom that I can share with others to empower them in their life.
And so I am vibrating, you're vibrating the magical as fuck, you're vibrating strength, wisdom. And so those are the things that you should be doing activities to help you experience those feelings right now is what's important. And that results in wellness.
Yeah.
Then you will manifest your wellness. So then what activities that could you do now that will make you feel magical AF, strong, and wise?
Yeah. So rollerblading, playing with my weighted batons and maces, because those make me feel both magical, strong, and wise, like some crazy wizard who's like whipping around his staff like a freaking warlock. So yeah, like just spending time at the beach, connecting with nature, having my shoes off in the sand, in the water, remembering to have fun and read, fantasy books and science fiction that really feed my creativity and kind of my ability to like dream and just think big and think into the future and create.
Yeah. So then it's focusing on those activities, and you don't have to do all of those in one day. It's just like waking up and being like, okay, this is what I'm wanting. This is what I want to vibrate. And these are the things that I can do to help me become in alignment with that vibration and with what I want. So what's one activity that I can do today to make me feel that way?
Yeah. And today I worked with my batons and maces and like feel a heck of a lot better than I did yesterday. Yeah. And this has been an ongoing struggle for me because I feel like, and I probably need to recontextualize the language that I'm using, because like I just kind of listen to myself say like, this has been an ongoing struggle. So I'm like, basically that's what I'm like manifesting right now. It's like, oh, this is an ongoing struggle. Instead of like, the segue could be, I am learning that I am more than enough and that I can handle all of this with strength and wisdom and magical as fuck energy, and that I am, infinitely capable to show up for myself, for my family, for my clients, and for my wife, no matter what's going on.
Yeah. Becoming aware of that belief and just creating the opposite can already make like such a difference. It's just, again, that awareness. So in the journal, it's a morning and evening reflection journal. And then it has all 12 months for the goals. And in the evening, there's a box for what thoughts would I like to let go of this evening. And then on the other side is a new empowering thought or mantra. And I always say, whatever thought you want to let go of, just what's the opposite? And that's your new mantra and thought.
So I was just writing that down. This is too much. I'm trying to figure out what the opposite of this is too much is. And like, I'm like, I can totally handle this. But I'm like, even that is like not as powerful as I want it to be. Yeah. And so I'm trying to think through like, what is a really powerful, we're going to do some tapping.
What is the opposite of this is too much? You need to repeat it then.
What is the opposite of this is too much?
We're going to move through the body points. Eyebrow. What is the opposite of this is too much?
What is the opposite of this is too much?
For me, what is the opposite of this is too much?
For me, what is the opposite of this is too much?
What would inspire me?
What would inspire me?
What would make me feel like I can handle it all?
What would make me feel like I can handle it all?
And their chin. What is the opposite of this is too much for me?
What is the opposite of this is too much for me?
What is the opposite of this is too much for me?
What is the opposite of this is too much for me?
What is the opposite of this is too much for me?
What is the opposite of this is too much for me?
Anything come up?
Radiant strength.
I have radiant strength.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we just did is we tapped on the body points, just asking the question. And what I like to say about tapping is get out of your head and tap into your heart. That's my motto for tapping, because it allows you to literally get out of your head and drop into this place of hearing from your heart. And so just being able to tap on these body points and asking yourselves questions when you're feeling stuck can be really helpful to offer another answer. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, radiant strength is like, that's a great, like, I can feel the energy of that. Yeah. And radiant strength allows me to really like be there for everybody in my life and like still have an infinite reservoir of energy. So I really love that. Thank you, babe.
Thank you, babe. That's a good example.
Yeah.
Of the process.
Yeah. And I think we all unfortunately, just through programming, you know, again, from parents, society, friends growing up, coworkers, etc., we create these limiting beliefs that are triggered when certain circumstances arise in our life. And so, you know, I can draw back to my childhood, just like there was a lot of kind of traumatic things going on, and that was like one of the things I picked up in childhood was like when too many kind of things are going on with family and work and school and stuff, then it's just like I shut down, like this is too much. And like one of the easiest ways to shut down is to like not feel well, because then you can't do anything.
You don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, because
support other people.
Yeah, because you gotta like just do whatever you can to like support yourself.
One of the things with beliefs, I love when I was going through certification, and my teachers, Craig and Alina, they explained limiting beliefs as a table. And on the top of the table can be the big ones, maybe like, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving. But then on the legs, those are the other, like the flavors of when you grew up. So like, I am not good at school. So kind of like, I'm not good enough, then tables to a leg of I'm not good at school, or another leg of like, people don't like me. Another leg of, I don't know, I can't handle family. Another leg of something else. And it all connects to that bigger belief and core belief. So a lot of the work that I do is knocking out those table legs. And what's really interesting is when I'm working with clients, we start with a goal of like, okay, what are the main beliefs that we think are coming up around this situation of what you want to create that's holding you back? But once we start doing the work, there's always other beliefs that come up that we're like, okay, we need to pivot and do this one first, because this is getting even deeper to that like core belief that is challenging your self-esteem and saying you're not worthy. So hearing this, just know that there's probably more than one belief at play, and just like finding that support. But also that's what this journal can be really helpful for too, in that becoming more aware of them so that you can start to make shifts.
Yeah.
And choose something differently. You get to choose. Remember that.
Yeah.
You get to fucking choose. Even though you may not think so.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I feel like we've really covered some really awesome topics, and this is a good place for us to land the ship. And there's a lot of stuff that we did not cover that I really do want to cover with you, including talking more about some of the tools and techniques and strategies that you and I use in our relationship to move through breakdowns and just really co-create a really amazing life. In addition to really talking about our financial independence journey and really looking at that from your side, because I know money is really challenging for a lot of couples. Being open about it, talking about it, getting on the same team about it. I also know that through all the work that you and I have done together with therapists and books and trial and error in our own life that we've developed a lot of really great tools to, create a really beautiful marriage. And I want to get into that, but I want to make sure that we have the time and space for it. So if you're open to it, I'd love to have you back on the show. Awesome. So are there any last words or things that you want to cover or requests to the audience that you would like to make?
There's 2 books that I really love right now. And one of them I've been even sharing with my clients to work with. And the first one is a Self-Esteem workbook, and it's by Glenn Schiraldi. And this is such a good book. I just love workbooks. I love actually doing the the things in the books, which I remember when we were together.
Yeah, we got to talk about this real quick because this is good. So I was one of those people who most of my life, like I've read an insane amount of books, and especially like personal development books, but I would just like read the exercises and never do them. And then I got with Carly, the Phoenix, and she'd be like doing every single exercise. And then I finally started doing the exercises in the books, and like lo and behold, the breakthroughs and transformations that I was looking for would happen a heck of a lot more frequently and to a much higher degree.
Yeah. So this is great because it's a workbook, and it just really helps to understand what those core wounds are and how to support yourself and strengthen your self-esteem. And then the other one is Luminous Darkness by Deborah Tull. And that is an incredible book because she is really changing the paradigm in how to look and understand and perceive, quote, darkness. And I didn't even realize that I had my own stuff around darkness. And so she even has exercises in there as well. One of the things she mentions is how way back when, darkness was actually a term understood as just not enough information. And that was so powerful that, again, it's not this good or bad thing, really changing what's good or bad, but just there's not enough information, and how we have as a society turned darkness into something bad. But being able to be in it can be really rejuvenating and connected. And that actually helped me remember I'm a night owl and I love the night. I used to love sitting in my room with just candles and just sitting in the dark and being with myself. And it was very rejuvenating as well as creative. And so reconnecting and changing how I thought about darkness again, coming back home to this really creative, nurturing space. So I really encourage that book because there's so much around it's bad about darkness or shadow work, or it's going to be so hard and painful, but which it could be, but it can also be really nurturing and life-giving. And so changing that paradigm.
Awesome. Well, Carly Lyn Wise, the Phoenix, my incredible, radiant wife, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Best place to find Carly online is Instagram, Carly Lyn Wise, as well as carlylynwise.com.
Carlywise.com.
Oh, she's going to double check her own website.
Carlywise.com.
Carlywise.com and Carly Lyn Wise on Instagram.
Yeah.
So if you've got to the end of the show, don't be afraid to ask for what you really want each and every day. And definitely check out Carly's work. And we'll have her back on the show soon to talk about relationships, money, tarot, crystals, and some of the other magical as fuck stuff that we get up to. Thanks for coming on the show, babe.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you.
Thanks for tuning in. And remember, literally everything can be used as an opportunity to learn, to heal, to grow, and to transform. So whatever is going on in your life, choose to consciously and proactively harness that energy and use it to alchemize your life to the next level. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend or on your favorite social media and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. As always, you can find me at Justin David Carl on Instagram and all the socials, as well as at alchemizelife.com on the web. Until the next time, sending you lots of energy and plenty of dragon magic.